with him, that he would find wisdom, boldness, conviction in the way that he lives the work. According to your will, we pray that this will be an encouraging and upbuilding time for us in Christ.
Exodus chapter 20 is very practical. I hope we've found it very practical. You would expect it to be. It's the Ten Commandments. Things really that we are being told to do. Things we are told to enact. And this is part of the segment in the Bible known as the law. And we need to approach the Ten Commandments with the understanding that while these Ten Commandments do not embody the totality of the Old Testament law, they serve as an umbrella for the Old Testament law, particularly those laws that remain for us today, those laws which are not ceremonial or sacramental in nature according to the prescriptions and the rules and regulations for the worship of God's people in the Old Testament. But these words convey truth for us and an idea of what pleases God here and now. We mustn't be deluded in thinking that these words, if we fulfill them in totality, save us. First of all, it would be a delusion to think that we have actually fulfilled these words. I'm sure we've seen that as we have gone through this study. We have broken God's commands. We have not been holy. We have not acted in a right and good way. We haven't kept God's law. And while we like to think that we are good people, if we look at how Jesus commented on the law, in particular, if you read the Sermon on the Mount, for instance, you'll see that we haven't even kept the most basic elements of the law. So there's you shall not murder. People say, "Well, I've never killed anyone." That's good. You've never killed anyone. You've never murdered anyone. But at the same time, you've hated. You've actually spoken angrily against people. You've spoken in a way that is harmful and detrimental to people. Jesus said, if you are angry without reason with someone in your heart, if you hate someone in your heart, then you are an unbeliever. In practice, you are not right with God. In practice, you are the same as a murderer before God. So, when we approach these Ten Commandments, we don't need to have this idea that these are just morals. This isn't about telling you what's morally right. This is about showing that you and I have all done what is morally wrong, and because of it, we need Jesus Christ and we need His grace. This isn't a prescription formula where, you go to the doctor and you get a set amount of rules and regulation. Take this, do this, don't do this, and you'll be okay. If you keep these Ten Commandments in general, good for you. I'm glad to hear it. That's excellent. But keeping these Ten Commandments in general does not make you right with God in any particular saving way. You need Jesus Christ and His righteousness in you. So with that in mind, we approach this commandment, the ninth of the Ten Commandments. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Now, what's this about, bearing false witness against your neighbor? What's a simple word for bearing false witness? Thomas, what's a simple word? Lying. So we see here, essentially, do not lie. Do not lie. Now, it goes a bit beyond that. Bearing false witness, as we'll see, it actually takes what is good and right and true and distorts it. Maybe not in the way that people traditionally see lying. It's not just that you are maliciously lying in the sense that you are not telling the truth. There are all manners of ways in which lies occur and in which lies are spread. You can't open up the newspaper these days without questioning, is this legitimate? Is this in actual fact what's happening? If you take 2 or 3 different newspapers and you read the headlines, and generally there's similar stories that they're covering, but you see totally different perspectives and a totally different way of transmitting some elements of information. So you have to ask, is this true in some of what it's reporting on? You have now in the sidebar on Google News a fact check section. And it has the top headlines that you've probably encountered from the week that you may very well have shared or been tempted to share on Facebook of essentially lies that have been spun as news. Taking a comment here and there out of context and making a big story out of it that can cause disruption. So lying is commonplace. People lie in their CVs. People lie in their jobs. People lie to look better. People lie to deflect attention from themselves onto other people. People lie through exaggeration. People lie through prevarication, which is often not thought of. That's withholding certain realities. That's limiting and diminishing some elements of truth and withholding it for some personal reason. It's gossip, slander. There's really a misuse of words, either way you cut it, when it comes to lying. So we have actually 10 points that show lying's danger. And I want to really go through these points. I want to go through them very quickly. There are 10 of them, after all. And I want us to stay focused and have clarity. You might want to take one of those notebooks at the back and jot these points down so that you can remember them. Lying is extremely destructive, and it is something that sets us apart from God and His way. It is not a part of holiness and should not be a part of the Christian life. And you may be here today and you may not be a Christian. I want to challenge you today to test yourself, to analyze yourself. Are you lying? Are you living a lie? Are you a liar? And does it really matter? First of all, lying disrupts peace. Lying disrupts peace. In the very first instance of sin in the world, we see a lie disrupted mankind's initial peace in the Garden of Eden. This malicious, malevolent serpent spoke to Eve and was deceptive and cunning and crafty in its way of using words. The initial question in and of itself was a lie. The serpent asked Eve in Genesis chapter 3, verse 2, did God actually say you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? In those words, the serpent was lying, because the serpent knew full well that mankind had to live, and you have to eat to live, and God had said you can eat of any tree in the garden, just of this one tree you cannot eat. But what we see there is the serpent exaggerates God's command. And it's such a major exaggeration, it's actually quite shocking. Did God say you can't eat of any tree? Seriously? He makes a generalization there. Something that we do all the time. God said you can't eat of any single tree in the garden. He's always doing stuff like that. That's how it comes across. A generalization that's not true. God is withholding something good from you. The woman then speaks to the serpent and says, no, we can eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God says you can't eat of the fruit of this particular tree in the middle of the garden, neither shall you touch it lest you die. But Eve actually, in some way, doesn't exactly convey God's actual words in what she says there. She adds on something because the truth in and of itself was not enough for Eve to convey her message or to convey God's word. She couldn't just let God's word as it was stand on its own. So she says, neither shall you touch it. Eve is not being malicious there. Eve is not lying in the traditional understanding of lying, and Eve's heart is at that point, while being tempted, it would seem is right. She's not fallen yet. She's not a fallen, sinful being yet. However, she, for some reason, feels like it's necessary to add to what God has said. He never said, "You shall not touch it." Though granted, touching the fruit would be probably unnecessary if you're not going to eat it. Why would you touch it unless you're going to eat it? So one can see the point she's making. But what we then see is the serpent comes right out and says essentially that God is lying. No, God knows that you will not die. You will not die. God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So the woman sees the tree is good for food. She sees it's a delight to the eyes. She takes of the tree. She believes it's desired to make one wise. She eats of it, gives some to her husband, and then they realize what's happened. They're ashamed. And they hear the sound of God walking in the garden, and they run and hide. The lie of the devil led to an attempt to cover over, to hide their sin. They did not only hide themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden, but they attempted to cover themselves. They attempted to hide because they were naked, and they could not actually satisfy what they believed was God's expectation of their presentation. They lied, and they were living a lie. Lying disrupts peace. It disrupted our initial peace, the initial peace of mankind in the Garden of Eden. Mankind lied and said, "No, this is good for me. God is lying." And so the disruption of peace put man at enmity with God. It separated man from God. But that's continued, and lying continues to disrupt peace. Look at all of the wars of human history. There are almost 4,000 wars that have been recorded throughout human history. And assess how many of those wars were impacted by deceit, by lies, by false stories and false reporting of news. The origins of the Boxer Rebellion in China, which cost so many people their lives, missionaries to China included, and really was the beginning of people from outside China being excluded from mission endeavor there, was rumored to have started as the result of a lie, as the result of a piece of fake news in which a Western journalist indicated that the Great Wall of China was in some way going to be dismantled. Again, that story is itself in question. So people have looked at stories, and they've made stories, and they've created urban legends and myths that we can't even know at times what is real or what is true. And all of that leads to a massive disruption of peace, a massive disruption of trust with one another. In Psalm 34, verse 12, we read, "What man is there who desires life and loves many days, that he may see good?" I think many people, perhaps most people, would say that they desire life. You want to have a good life, right? Who doesn't want to have a good life? Many people would say they would love to live to a good old age. That's how people put it. I would love to live to a good old age. This week I met with a man in his flat, and he's in his 90s. And we got on the subject of God judging the earth. And he does believe in a final day of judgment. He's not a believer in Jesus Christ as the Scriptures present him. He doesn't believe Jesus is equal with God, but he's open to discussion. And yet when it came to the discussion of death, and it was put to him that we all, of course, die, he was like, well, yes, of course, I too will die one day, but I'm not ready just yet. I still want to get my letter from the Queen. He's in his 90s, and he knows that death is on its way, but he believes that just by saying and by resisting any idea of death, that he'll make it to that great triple number where he knows he can get some recognition from the Queen, or he thinks it will be by that time the King. So who knows? But it's clear that he wants to live to that age. Well, the Scriptures say, keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. That's not a promise. There are many people who do not see many days, who do not live a long life, who do not necessarily live a prosperous life on earth. Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. The reality of life is that there are people who are honest, who are decent individuals, who honor God, who glorify God, who do keep their tongue from evil and their lips from speaking deceit, who do lie. We shouldn't see the Psalms as promises in every case. There are general principles, however, through which we should apply. And I think we can see that when one engages in evil speech and when one is constantly speaking deceit, their downfall, and probably premature downfall, is almost inevitable. Lying disrupts peace. Second, lying distorts personality. Lying distorts personality. Now, what personality is that? Well, it's not the personality that you're born with in the first instance. It's primarily speaking of our created purpose. You and I, while we have individual personalities, are descendants of the first man and first woman. The Scriptures say that we have been made from one man. From one man, every nation of man came. We share that same blood. Our primary purpose with which we were created was to be bearers of the image of God. He created us in His image, meaning that we were to value truth. We were to value what is good and what is right. Meaning we are to exhibit His power and certain elements of His personality, His holiness. Honesty is a part of holiness. Truth is a part of holiness. Our created purpose was to reflect the purity of speech and to reflect the purity of behavior that our God enacts. Our created purpose, however, we have distorted. Sin has crept in, and sin, initially starting with a lie, has broken up that image of God and has distorted that created personality. When a child is born, people comment on the innocence of that child, and one recognizes what is meant by that. However, as the child continues to develop and grow, you see that the child is far from innocent. The child is sweet and the child is cute at different times, but the child can also be quite malicious, and the child can also be jealous and envious and a bit malevolent, and the child shows anger, and the child shows rage, and the child is from a very early age often deceitful. We'll try to get away with stuff. And, at a young age, you can look and say, oh, the child is cheeky. Oh, he's a cheeky little thing. Oh, she's just being a bit naughty. And you'll say, are you being naughty? Are you being a bit cheeky? You shouldn't be that way. And we might have a laugh. We might say, that was really wrong. But and they may get away with a lot more than an adult would, doing essentially the same thing, or an older child would doing the same thing, because there's something a bit cuter about it. But the reality of the presence of sin in the heart is already seen and is already clear, however sweet the child may be. As the child develops, if those personality flaws, if those elements of dishonesty are not challenged, the child will grow up to be dishonest and will grow up to be a liar. And lacking discipline will further be distorted in personality. People quite rightly are concerned with the state of many youth in our nation. We see problems in behavior. We see problems in manner, in word, in how people relate to one another. There are problems with our youth. We can go back, and it's perhaps true of every generation. There's always been a problem with the youth. It's not that there's anything new. But when we see particularly problematic youth, maybe we can rewind and we can look at the child's upbringing, and we can see how, in some cases, the child was allowed to remain undisciplined and was allowed to become a liar, was not disciplined, was not scolded when necessary, was not told no when necessary. And so the child has grown up to be a liar, and what previously seemed minor, what previously was sticking a hand in a cookie jar and taking it away and having been told not to, and then trying to hide it and shaking its head when asked, have you been in the biscuits with chocolate all over the face or something. What previously might have been cute or sweet in some way is no longer great. And is far more serious. Lying distorts personality. It distorts personality in that it's part of the mess up of our created purpose. Though we were made in God's image, are not good reflections of His image. And we, at this point in time, as we grow, develop more and more negative personality traits consistent with lying and consistent with what makes us liars. The scriptures are pretty clear that the one who's a liar has essentially made the devil his dad. Jesus spoke to the scribes and Pharisees, you are of your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. When you lie, when you persist in lying, you are essentially indicating that the devil is your dad. Lying distorts personality. Third, lying demonstrates sin. Lying is a part of our fallen human condition. Because we have rebelled against God, because we have sinned against God, we remain in sin. And that means that we continue to be set apart from God's righteousness. In verse 17 of Matthew 15, do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is expelled, but what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this defiles a person? For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a person. But to eat with unwashed hands does not defile anyone. Jesus is talking about these people who are nitpicking over the fact that the disciples did not wash their hands before eating. They didn't wash up. And yes, one can say, well, it's best to wash up before eating, but is that a sin? Is it a sin to put something into your mouth without going first to the sink to wash up? No, it may be slightly unhygienic, but it's not a sin. What Jesus is conveying to the Pharisees is that while focusing on outward hygiene, they are not clean inside. They're not clean inside. And then he goes on to highlight that lying demonstrates sin. When we bear false witness against our neighbor, we are actively taking part in something in a public sphere. Bearing false witness against someone involves openly speaking up, openly speaking against, openly lying. Lying demonstrates sin. 4, lying defiles words. Words are wonderful. God created words. With words, God said, "Let there be," and there was. He created us in His image. We are thinking, rational human beings who have been created to use words. Out of all of the creatures on the earth, we have a special mode of communication that is legible, that is understandable, that is written. It's not just spoken, that is written, and that endures. Words endure. But lying defiles words. It takes words and it twists words. It uses words to spin a certain story that's false. It uses words to tear down others. It uses words to speak in a way that is fundamentally against God's way. Ephesians 4, verse 15 through 16 says, "Rather, speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into Him who is the head, into Christ, from whom the whole body, joined and held together by every joint with which it is equipped, when each part is working properly, makes the body grow so that it builds itself up in love." Stop lying. Start speaking the truth. That's the way of Christ. That's what we are called to do. Put away falsehood. Ephesians 4 verse 25 says, put it away. Stop engaging in lies. Stop bearing false witness. Stop being dishonest. Lying defiles words. Words are there to speak the truth. Words are there to build up. Words are there to speak in a way that is respectful, that is honorable, that is right. And yet, lying, having disrupted peace, having distorted personality, and as a demonstration of sin, often plays a role in causing us to downtear others, to slander, to gossip, to distract from the reality, really, of who we are, and to make ourselves seem better at times. And that's the fifth item. Lying disrupts peace. Lying distorts personality. Lying demonstrates sin. Lying defiles words. Fifth, lying diverts attention. Lying is something that is very good at the process of deflection. Someone asks a straight question. You deflect it. You ignore it. You don't do anything with it. You deflect the question. You don't respond. Some people notice. And they notice right away. Question wasn't answered. That was a deflection. She's hiding something. He's not being honest. He has something that he doesn't want to be upfront with me about. Some people notice. Other people don't. And they go down the track that the deflection takes them. Lying diverts attention from what is good, right, and true because it presents something that is false. It may not present something that on the surface is bad, but because in substance it is not true, because in substance it is false, Whatever story it is, however good it may seem, is bad. Let's say you go to the doctor and you have a cough. You've had a persistent cough, and it's lasted for a very, very long time, and you're concerned. You have other bad symptoms of something just not being right. The doctor knows you have cancer. You go to the doctor and you want to be told the truth, correct? You want to be told what you have. You want to be told what you need to do. If there's a cure, you need to be told the truth. If you go to the doctor and you are told a lie, it's pointless. You need to be told the truth. But what if you go to a doctor and you ask the doctor what it is you have? And he deflects your question and says, well, it's clear that you have a very bad cough. He knows you have cancer. He knows you've had the cough. That's why you first went to the doctor. But he just focuses on the symptom. Well, it's clear you have a very bad cough. Well, there are a few things wrong, but let's just take things step by step. And he just keeps deflecting and never gets right down to it. You have cancer. It's terminal. That would not be a good doctor. We recognize that, and that's a very implausible situation. But why is it unacceptable for some people to lie, yet culturally and in our mind we feel it is acceptable in some circumstances for us to lie? It's unacceptable for a doctor to lie in their profession, but we find it acceptable in other areas for people to tell lies. Why? We find it acceptable for ourselves to tell lies. Why? We exaggerate, makes something seem major when it's not, make something seem better or worse than it is when it's not. We prevaricate. We don't give the full story. We omit certain truths with the intention of making ourselves look better most of the time. We divert attention by presenting logical fallacies, generalizations. You always say things like, you always do that. Why are you always, anytime you see words like that, there's a generalization. Stop generalizing. It's a soft form, a more acceptable form of dishonesty. Don't be dishonest. But you say, well, it's too easy to say you always. It's just how we speak. Yes, it's how we speak. Yes, it's part of how we speak. James says in James 3, verse 4 through 6, consider ships as well. Although they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot is inclined. In the same way, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it boasts of great things. Consider how small a spark sets a great forest on fire. The tongue also is a fire, a world of wickedness among the parts of the body. It pollutes the whole person, sets the course of his life on fire, and it is itself set on fire by hell. James also speaks of how any beast on earth has been tamed, but the tongue has never been tamed. We let our tongues get away from us. So yes, it's true, it's how we speak, it's just how we use words. We generalize a lot. But that's not right. And that, once more, is a demonstration of the sin that's in our hearts and of our need to be right with God so that we can change. Lying diverts attention by presenting logical fallacies, generalizations, red herrings. I can't remember exactly why they're called red herrings. It's not because, it's not about herrings like the fish you were eating perhaps this past week, last week in Denmark, Thomas. But it's essentially introducing something off topic to a discussion. You introduce something completely off topic by way of reasoning in often a debate, and it takes the individual you're talking with down a side road. We also call it chasing rabbits. So red herrings are dishonest. Logical fallacies. Ad hominem is another. It's a character attack. Really? I can't trust you because you did, you said, you this, you that, and you try and don't tear someone's character. Often exaggerating and often withholding context. We have to be careful with our words. Let's not distract. Let's not divert attention from the truth unwittingly by letting our tongue get carried away. Lying diverts attention. Number 6, lying denies responsibility. Lying denies responsibility. Primarily the responsibility to act rightly. It says, I don't have to tell the truth. Lying, in its nature, assumes that you have the right and you are right in not telling the truth. But that's a denial of your responsibility to do what Jesus said, to love God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. We'll come to how this relates to our relationship with God in a moment, but to also love your neighbor as yourself. Lying deflects questions concerning what we have done or not done in regard to our fellow man and asks, am I my brother's keeper? Am I really responsible? That's what Cain did when he had killed his brother. God said, where's your brother Abel? Am I my brother's keeper? He was lying. He was denying his responsibility. So, well, you're God, you can go find him. He knew where his brother was. He knew his brother's blood was spilt on the ground. The implication of that passage is that, yes, we are our brother's keepers. We are responsible for one another. We are responsible to take care of one another. And actively bearing false witness against your neighbor is a denial of your responsibility to act righteously. Not bearing true witness on behalf of your neighbor is also an act of irresponsibility that is dishonest. If you hear a lie being told, if you hear some piece of salacious gossip, if you hear someone say something that is slanderous and you know it not to be true, why do you sit silent? Why do you say nothing? Well, you don't want to make things awkward. That's often what people say in today's society. I just thought I'd make things a bit awkward, so I just let it go. So you would rather this person be hurt and having words spoken about them behind their back that are not true, and allowing others to hear lies and to most likely spread lies, which is how gossip works, than tackling it yourself and saying, that's not true. This is why. This is what actually is the case. This is what's happened. This is the truth. In our society, it's just as common for people to withhold the truth and in so doing passively be dishonest and passively be bearing false witness by their silence as it is for someone to be actively slandering or actively accusing someone in a false manner. While you deny your responsibility to do right, you are responsible and accountable for your actions. When I deny my responsibility to do right and speak the truth, I am actively responsible and accountable before God for my sin. 7, lying disregards conscience. When we know God's law, when we perhaps don't know God's law, our conscience, the scriptures say, accuses or excuses us. Conscience informs how we think and what we do. But over time, we can sear our conscience, where we ignore that pricking. This is wrong. I lied. That's not good. It's not right. It's damaging. It's harmful. It's disruptive. It's destructive. And gradually we get used to lying. We get used to spinning stories our way. We get used to dishonesty. We get used to deceit. And though once we knew and were informed in our conscience when we lied and when we lied to others and even when we were lying to ourselves, eventually the truth just becomes a bit hazy and a bit blurry. And then we start asking questions like, what is truth? Is there truth? No, there's no truth. Does it really matter if there's truth? Well, you make your own truth. That's what society tells us. You make your own truth. What is that? You make your own truth? No, there has to be an objective standard. There's right, there's wrong, there's true, there's false. There is truth. But in this day and time, you can make your own truth, people say. You can say things that aren't necessarily true to anyone else but to yourself. And as long as it's true to you, and as long as you're true to yourself, and as long as you speak your truth, you're okay. And you should be celebrated. So you disregard conscience and you sear it. Lying disregards conscience. Lying destroys character. When you lie, you discredit yourself when you speak the truth. The liar, who's found to be a liar, will not be trusted. Have you heard of the story of the boy who cried wolf? You heard that story? This naughty shepherd boy thought it would be fun and games. It would be really great to run through the town shouting, "Wolf, wolf!" Because the sheep in the pasture, if they were attacked by wolves, that would damage the village's livelihood. So he went through the town shouting, "Wolf, wolf, there's a wolf." And if there was a wolf, that meant there were other wolves nearby. It's very rare that you have lone wolves, actually. So other wolves were nearby, and if there are other wolves nearby, and if they're coming close to the town, that meant they must be very hungry. They could kill all of the sheep. What's more, if children are playing outside, they could kill the kids because they're coming close to the town. They must be hungry. So everyone was extremely worried and frightened, and it got everyone in a tizzy. And they went out with their pitchforks and torches and things, trying to find this wolf. And all they found was this shepherd boy laughing. What fun! What games! Laughing. He made them look. It was such a joke. It was so great. Everyone thought, "Oh, this is really wrong," and they were, some of them laughing and saying, "Why did you do such a thing? Why did you do that? Oh, that's really messed up. Don't do that again. Don't do that again." Well, some time went by, and the shepherd boy thought, "No, I'll try it again," and so he did. And everyone musters their energy, and they run out, and they're ready to tackle this wolf and to probably end the rest of the pack wherever it is. And they found the shepherd boy again laughing. You did it once. It was kind of funny then. It wasn't really, but we did have a laugh. This isn't funny now. It's not funny now. Some time passed. The boy is a bit bored. So he thinks, well, what can I do with my time? So he actually does what he's supposed to be doing, and he starts looking around as a shepherd boy ought to, and he actually does see a wolf. And what's more, the wolf is headed towards the sheep, and it looks like he's about to give a signal that his pack should follow. So the pack is probably in the woods somewhere. What's he to do? So he runs through the town. "Wolf, there's a wolf." We're not doing it again. Look, it was funny the first time, it's not funny this time. No, you have to believe me, there's a wolf. This is just getting a bit awkward and embarrassing. I'm quite sad for you as a human being because you are thinking this is funny. It's not funny anymore. It's quite old. You need to just drop it and come up with some new humor material. The boy doesn't get anyone to believe him. The wolf comes with its pack and it takes and kills the sheep. If you persist in lying, you discredit yourself when you speak the truth. But lying destroys character also in that it denigrates the character of others. That's often how lying is. It places blame on others and shifts attention to others who one thinks is worthy of some negative press, whether public or in a small sector. Proverbs 25 verse 18 says, "A man who bears false witness against his neighbor is like a war club or a sword or a sharp arrow." Proverbs 26 verse 22 says, "The words of a whisperer," someone who goes around knows, have you heard the rumor? Did you hear about? Yeah? The words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but stop the person right there and say, "Don't tell me. Have you heard the rumor?" "Well, if it's just a rumor, please don't tell me. I don't really want to hear." I think this is what's, we're all guilty of that. It's like a delicious morsel. It's something someone gives you a feeder of something, and you want to hear a bit more. And your mind goes through things, but often when someone doesn't give more, your mind plays things out, and then you start to present a story. You start to present your own little scenario. It's not good. It's wrong. It's sin. Lying destroys character. Slander. It's false. Often taking elements of truth and exaggerating them way out of proportion to destroy another individual's credibility. Gossip. It's not all fun and games. Deception. It's sin. And it's part of mankind's human nature, mankind's fallen, sinful human nature. Number 9, lying despises your fellow man. We're told, love your neighbor as yourself. And yet when we trivialize the truth, we destroy trust. To trivialize the truth is to destroy trust. We despise our fellow man when we lie. Leviticus 19:11 says, "Do not lie, do not deceive one another." We are fellow human beings. We are neighbors. It's not just don't bear false witness against your neighbor, the man next door. Don't bear false witness against your fellow man. Speak the truth. Stop lying. Don't be false. Don't be fake. Be honest. Speak the truth in love. Speak the truth in love. Finally, lying dishonors God. The 10th point. We got there. Lying dishonors God. Proverbs 12 verse 22 says, "The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy." Proverbs 16 verse 16 through 19 says, "There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers." Arguably, there are at least 2 elements of that feature lying. Likely more, because the one who devises wicked plans often does so in a deceptive way behind people's backs, in a way that's malicious and damaging to others. And additionally, the one who sows discord among brothers often uses lies to sow discord among brothers. Lying is hated by God. It is against who He is. It is against His holy and righteous character. It is against the love of truth that He has and that He created us to display. The only one who has lived truly is Jesus Christ. He said in the Gospel according to John, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." He spoke of Himself as the true vine. He spoke of Himself as the one who really could grant hope and peace and help if we abide in His truth. Revelation 22 verse 15 warns that everyone who practices falsehood has their place in the lake of fire. Every liar has their place in the lake of fire. You and I, apart from God's grace, would persist in our lies and would persist in our falseness, and we would persist in our dishonesty, and we would be condemned, quite rightly, because God is holy and just, and we are not. And yet there is the promise that those of us who trust in the Lord Jesus Christ, who come to Him, can walk away. We can put away falsehood, however much we have lied, however much the word liar defines us. We can put falsehood away and speak the truth in love because of what Jesus Christ has done for us. And we will join with the remnant of Israel spoken of in Zephaniah chapter 3 verse 13, who will do no iniquity. We will not speak lies. There will not be deceit in our tongues. We will not be dishonest and persist in dishonesty. When Jesus comes again in His new heaven and new earth of righteousness, there will be no lies. But you have to ask the question, what is your part with God? We've gone through a whole list here. Lying disrupts peace. Lying distorts personality. Lying demonstrates sin. Lying defiles words. Lying diverts attention. Lying denies responsibility. Lying disregards conscience. Lying destroys character. Lying despises your fellow man. But the ultimate point, and the point that comes above all of this, lying dishonors God, because everything we've talked about is a product of our lie against God and our lies about God. That His word doesn't matter, that His way isn't suitable, that our way is best, that our lie is more worth telling than His truth is worth living. So we need to ask ourselves, are we in the truth? Are we in Jesus Christ? Do we know His way? Are we walking in it? And if not, I need to call you to repentance. I need to call you to turn around from the lie you're in. I need to call you to turn from living that lie to repentance and faith in Jesus Christ. Stop believing lies about God. Stop telling lies about God and about yourself, acting as though you can achieve salvation through good works or religion or culture or being a genuinely nice person. Don't believe that lie. Believe in Jesus Christ. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Go to God through Jesus Christ. Abide in Him. Abide in His word. Abide in His truth. The opposite of lying is speaking the truth. As one who should not bear witness falsely, you should speak the truth actively. As one who should not deceive and be dishonest in how you speak to people, only trying to please people in many cases, you need to be willing to correct where correction is necessary. You need to be willing to instruct and offer instruction where instruction is helpful. You need to actively upbuild. Don't just passively stop lying. Actively upbuild. Speak. Open your mouths and use words that are good for people, that are wholesome, that are healthy, that are enabling to people, and that are enriched with the truth of God's word. But in order to do that, you need to know God's word. Words of truth written down for us that we should walk in them. Repent, speak the truth, live the truth, and love the truth.